Hello and welcome to my first tutorial. Today we're gonna talk a bit about basic black. I just finally coated the Mini with some black. I usually use some water to dilute the paint, and then I go over the parts again with black that needs to be really base coated so it looks black. And when it dried up, I mix out my first layer of gray, which I want pretty black, pretty black. And I dilute it a lot with water. With this black, I wanted to go for something you can paint for your minis as a playable tabletop mini. So it's nothing really fancy like 5 or 6 layers or even 10 to 40 layers as you do with a mini that you're gonna put out or compete with. So this is just a stroke of something brighter than black, but not as bright as just one highlight. So I go with this one with some water, and I do maybe 2 or 3 layers with this one to smooth it out. And I also do small parts where I think some glancing parts or light hits the armor, like that streak on the top of the back there. Now I dilute my paint with some water and some more gray, and I use the Vallejo paints for this one. The Vallejo Game color. And now I diluted some more of the gray, pretty much straight up gray, to do some of the highlighting edges. And this ones I just stroke with the side of the with the brush. I try not to pinpoint it. I just try to get it on the side there to brighten it up. And you get the highlights. You get where you're gonna put it. I want some flair to this one. It's not gonna be so much juiced armor. It's just like a fairly new piece with some glares on it. I think it looks nice on the tabletop as well if you're gonna... This is a Chaos Marine backpack, so I want it to look black, but somewhat pop up with the colors. I also added a couple of flares to the backpack upper part, of the thicker part there, so it looks like some light glares. I just go with the flow on this one. I didn't have a plan for it, I just do what feels right. And here I dilute some of the medium gray and black to replace some of the parts I felt were not a smooth gradient. So I just go over and I correct some of the lighter parts that I think was too thick, or maybe it didn't ease out as much as I wanted to. And here I go back with some diluted black. I almost go just black and water. Here I'm in normal time now, so you can see, and I speed it up. So that's what I do. I go with the black part just to smooth out the gray gradient. It looks decent. As I said, this is for painting minis when you don't have several hours to do it, so that's a decent gradient, I think, for a tabletop quality figure. Mini. And now I go with some diluted white just to make it pop. And I don't want the white to go everywhere, I just want it to be on the sharp edges. So a lot of water and a nice tip on the pencil, brush. So I don't load the brush with white. So it's still pretty gray. It's not bright white, it's just light gray. Not as smooth as I wanted it, but it looks fairly good. Now I broaden some of the parts where I think I wanted some more highlights. And I start doing the top of the exhaust there. And I go with the pretty much not just straightforward going to the brightest part right away. I do blotches where I think there's different light sources. You can get like a shine to it. I think it's cool from different angles. So I start with the pretty dark gray, almost black, and I work my way up. Here is a diluted gray to get it to pop a bit more. You can see a little bit more of it here. The gray parts are kind of smooth, but bright enough so you see the light sources. And I do the back of the backpack while I wait for other parts. And I go in with some brighter gray. This one, I think I wanted to pop a bit more, so it's not a smooth gradient. Here I wanted the light source to hit it kind of hard. So this is the medium part. I basically call this a 3-parter highlight with some gradient into it, since you dilute the colors. Here I did it a little bit brighter than I wanted, and I realized that my brush was getting splotches and stuff, so I straightened that out. And I redid the brighter parts here. So some bright specks on there where the light source hits. Also some streaks on the front of the backpack. I touch up the parts on the vents exhaust there. It's not as smooth as I would have done if I'm putting this out for like a contest or display, but I felt that it was too splotchy, so I went over with the diluted gray to thin out and even out the brighter parts. And now for the exhausts themselves, I do a pretty bright gray, I think, just because I think it would look cool if it pops out a bit on the game table. I would probably do more gradients if it was a showcase mini. Get the edges there. Fixing the pencil, I mean the brush, fixing the brush. And then a mid part gray that's kind of bright compared to the other stuff, but it kind of dries up darker than you think, so I think that looks cool from the game table. And then of course almost white, just to get a tad bit more light up there. The lighter parts make it pop, and I think that's cool, especially if you're gaming with these ones. And I use a little splotch on the nether part there. As the lights hit it, it looks cool. It's all about looking cool. And a little bit of white. I think the brush is getting a bit splotchy here, so I correct it a bit with gray so it doesn't look too bright. Evening it out a bit. Then I start with the side parts, and these parts I would probably do a lot more layers with, a lot more water, but I think this one would look good with just a hint of, just a streak of highlight. Correcting the brush again. Always correct the brush and keep it fresh. It's probably the most important stuff to do when you do these small parts. So I just ease in the highlights on these parts. Just a medium gray, because I want these parts to really shine compared to the other parts where you can have more gradients. And when you fail, put in some black in the in the grooves there because I wasn't paying too much attention. Actually, I was painting this during the day, and I kind of suck at getting my creative juices flowing during the day, so I was correcting a bit with black, and it's good to know you can go in and fix that. And of course, because it's me, I wanted some more highlights. I couldn't just get one highlight there, so I painted some white, or light gray actually. It's not white. I probably wouldn't use white on this one, but diluted white with lots of water and some gray to make it pop a bit more. It looks a bit hard, a bit harsh when you look up close, but this is for effect from afar on the game table. And now I'm using a bit of white just on the top parts, but this I'm gonna dilute with some gray. You see it looks splotchy, but this is for the effect I want, just the light hitting here. Then I dilute it with some gray, like this, just cornering it in, getting a smooth gradient from the corners up to the white, and the white is no more. It's just brighter gray, and then correcting some of it with black. And I don't mind at this part if I get some part of the paint on the rivets, because those are going to be metal later on, so I'm going to paint over that part. And now these parts I think were more fun to paint than I thought. I just took some diluted medium gray and hit it with that, and then I went for a blackish inkish part. I diluted some black with water and went over the parts where I wanted a smoother gradient. So this is basically 1 or 2 layers of black, diluted black over the gray parts. It looks decent. Yeah, nice. And of course, I want some more highlights there, so I go in with a medium light gray, just to get those hard corners. And a lighter one, just at the grooves, at the top of the grooves and at the sides of the armor. And of course the little holes. These ones can be a bugger to paint, but on these backpacks they're pretty easy. Just put a 45 angle on the brush and get in there and cruise it in. Don't try to force it in, so the paint won't go into the grooves. And this is a tabletop quality black that I think suits playable minis. I hope you enjoyed my first tutorial. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask or comment. And here you have the final result with some detail and a couple of rivets.